Artemis Fowl is directed by Kenneth Branagh and stars a first time actor named Ferduria Shaw as the title character, and stars also Josh Gad and Colin Farrell and Judi Dench, and among others. And this is based on a series of books that it's based on the original novel of the same name called Artemis Fowl, and it's based on also a series of books that deals with a boy genius who is interested in basically the world of mythical creatures and stuff, and he basically has it to where his father, Artemis Fowl Senior, gets captured by this villain that they set up, who is essentially a pixie, and because there's a relic that he basically stole that it's from this it's called the Aculos, and essentially it's up to Artemis and these other pairs of creatures that he comes across, including this elf, this giant dwarf, the Dwarfus Giganticus type.
It's fairies slash leprechauns.
Well,
Somehow leprechauns are kind of
it's elves in dwarves. Leprechauns actually they're called leprechauns, but it's not actually leprechauns like you're thinking of.
Here's the thing you're leaving out is they're fairies, because they talk about meeting at the tree with the fairies and all that. So they're mostly called fairies.
Yeah,
I mean, that's how empty this fucking movie is and telling us what the hell we're looking at. So sorry if we got it.
Yeah, but essentially it becomes pretty much them having to retrieve this relic and bring it and find out and rescue Artemis's dad. Now, here's some backstory. Now, this film actually started out in quite all the way back in 2001. It was first developed in 2001 when the books came out, and when the first book came out, and it was actually going to be produced by Miramax. And at that point, they got the rights to it, and they started doing, work on it to try to get the script going and everything. And apparently, it remained in development hell for a hell of a long time up until 2011, until one day a director decided to want to direct the film. And then a couple years later, Walt Disney Pictures themselves actually got a hold of the rights to want to cover the events of the first and second novels of the series. And they were originally going to produce it with the Weinstein Company, which I'm not going to go into detail, but we know how that basically fell out after 2017 with the stuff going on with the former head of the company. But essentially, that was in development, and then that fell through as far as them producing. And then Disney basically kept the rights for a couple years. And then in 2015, director Kenneth Branagh, who, if you may remember, he's directed countless movies, including a lot of Shakespeare stuff like Hamlet, some other ones that he's best known for Shakespeare works of, and also Thor, and if you may remember, The Murder on the Orient Express, who got attached to want to direct the film. And it was pretty much in delay for quite a while, because after that they kept delaying it, and then pretty much they got a date for it in 2019, and then they kept getting delayed for different release dates up until this year.
It actually had like a 2018 late release, and then had so many fallouts in 2019. I believe about 6 different release dates, and then they tried to. And 2020 they had it in like March or something like that, or one of those days. Then they decided to push it off again, and then the coronavirus happened, so they had to release it on Disney Plus, rightfully so, after the quality we just watched. But just to tell you how long they've been in development of wanting to make this movie, the Twin Towers were still standing. That puts it in perspective how long that has been talked about, them making the live adaptation to the book. And so I saw the trailers. I will admit that I was not really it wasn't like a go-to type of film for me, even whenever the trailers. And here's an interesting thing. People were complaining, and I want to bring this up, the trailers being so different from what we got in the movie. There's actually a reason for that. the trailers that we personally watched, and this is pathetic how they treated this movie. We got the trailers back in 2018. There was a point in time after its original release date in like kind of like December 2018 that
No, it
there.
was actually going to be in August 2019.
Oh, I heard. No, I remember there was a 2018. They were talking about 2018. Anyways, there was original release date for it in which they pulled it to reshoot a bunch of shit, and because of that and a bunch of changes and this and that and this and that, and of course the Miramax thing you were talking about, and the script and just all the coronavirus and all that stuff, people who saw the trailer back that day, which we got in 2018, the trailer, you're literally seeing a different movie because there were so much changes. Get this. They didn't even fucking update a trailer for us for this movie. That's why people were like, why is there literally 3/4 of this trailer not even in the movie? That's the reason why. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. When you reshoot almost entirely or fix a bunch of shit, you might want to consider updating your trailer, especially when it's already 2 years old, 2.5 years old. You know, you got to think. But anyways, yeah, we started seeing a lot of bad reviews, calling this the worst book adaptation, worst Disney film of all time. Holy shit. I will say that upon seeing this film, oh my God, this was a fucking train wreck. Horrible, horrible, horrible.
Yeah, I mean, already from the get-go, from the trailers when they were coming out, I actually heard from fans of the books that were big on the books. They actually were already calling the film to probably not actually be good because they were already calling things in the trailer alone that was so different from the book. And they were pretty much and I heard that when this film was coming out, it looked like it was going to be one of those movies that, well, let's just say if it probably was released in theaters, I probably think it would have bombed because this movie, the quality of it aside, it looked like a film that probably wasn't going to reach much like audiences from the trailers alone. And the movie cost about $125 million. And I think this probably would have been something that would have probably tanked in theaters, possibly.
It would have rightfully so tanked in theaters because this is one of those type of films that, I mean, it's kind of hard to bring somebody that doesn't know shit about the books. I mean, me and Justin will watch about anything, and including this, and I haven't even read a book of this. I don't read books often, but I'm just saying, theoretically, me and Justin, when going to this, we usually don't know shit about the books. So, yeah. But anyway, back to, so you have to pave a way for your target audience, which would be fans of the books. And I heard that they changed entirely everything from judging by the trailers. Not to mention, I heard complaints from other book readers of the series saying that they did political shit. Not going to get into that part, which pissed people off. And just so on and so forth. Like they said, this was like literally you taking an entire book. He goes, not even keeping the bare basics almost. It's almost entirely different.
And shockingly, you know what I also heard, and I was reading on this. I don't know if this is true or not, but I was reading upon this. The author himself, that the author, what's his name? It's Ian Colfer. He actually approved of this. He actually approved of the changes of the source material. I read it on a source. I don't know if it's actually confirmed, but when your movie is so like, I don't know if it's probably because he was either enlightened of it or just for possibly publicity or whatever. But yeah, he actually approved of the changes.
By publicity, because the fact that, you know, his books are supposedly really acclaimed by amongst a lot of readers. I hear that the books are just out of this world. They compare it to like Harry Potter. Good. Mm-hmm. So I hear a lot of great things. Of course, I don't read. I'm not a big book reader, so I wouldn't, entirely know. But they go in so much exploration and deep details and really cool events and just, I don't know, they do a bunch of stuff from what I've been gathering from the book readers, and he had to have just done that for publicity, because really, honestly, how could you? I would be insulted by what the fuck I watched. I mean, seriously. And this movie was really, really terrible. The only pros really I can give this film is the visual effects. And I'm not going to say that the visual effects were amazing, because they weren't. They were pretty stale for the most part. They were doable, a lot better looking than Doolittle and all that. But yeah, other than that, I seriously can't give this film any more pros. I can't.
Yeah, I'm the same way, man. Like, there's some pretty art design in some areas, or sorry, I should say production design in some areas, and some of the visual effects, they're generic. There's nothing really stands out, but some of them are okay in some parts, but while others look pretty bad, and that's what I'll get to in my cons.
The visual effects is why it's my only pro. It's still 50-50, because there were some cool looking parts of visual effects, but then there are some that they get a little cheap.
Yeah.
So anyways, so that's all I could say on my pros.
Same.
We're about to rip this fucking film a new asshole. Oh my God, where did I start in this piece of shit, man? How the fuck? I just want to ask Hollywood, because I believe Dr. Doolittle had this issue. Where do you get off spending $125 million? Dr. Doolittle, I believe, spent what, 175, 200 million?
About 175.
Why do films looking like they came out of a fucking garbage can? Where's the money go at? Because I'm going to tell you this now, the overall quality of this film looked like something that was found in a dollar bin. How the hell was this going to be a worldwide release? I've seen Disney's Presents on fucking Disney Channel. You know how those movie qualities look usually pretty bad because they're cheap looking. And they looked far better than this.
I don't know. It's such a mystery to me. It's like, I understand movies cost money, and I understand visual effects can cost money, and things are, when you're making a film, it's very expensive. But these effects, everything that's involved with the actual look of the film, it doesn't look very theatrical. It doesn't look, I mean, it does look in some parts, but even still, it looks very cheap with the visual effects and overall, the way it's the structure of it, the way it's directed and everything.
That's what I'm saying is that's what I'm getting at. It's just like, example, and I know it's comparing apples and oranges here. Let's look at a film called Upgrade. That cost what, $12 million to make, and that looked like it was like 12 to 20 million or something. That's all it took to make that movie. And you can look at films like that and they go a long fucking distance in visual effects. They look phenomenal. They are just grade A, as good as it gets.
$3 million.
$3 million is all it took. How do we, that effects, which by the way has some of the most stunning camera work, visual effects I've ever fucking seen. I mean, talk about the way everything they did with that film. $3 million. Where is 125 million went? Just like in Doolittle, when I asked where the fuck did almost that 200 million went? Where are you spending your money? Because this was like hot garbage on the visual standpoint. I mean, not on the visual standpoint. On structures, the way they I said good things about the visuals. I'm talking about the bad parts. I mean, even the good parts looked very low budget, but they weren't as bad as, some of the other stuff I've seen.
Right.
But still, I'm just saying, a movie of this magnitude, of that budget, should have looked like Avengers or something like that. That's what I'm getting at. So
right, and that's a shame.
No, speaking of that, seeing I bitched about that. Another thing that should come with a film like this, it should have been on this film. Felt like they were just bored to make it. Like no one really behind set really felt like they had the energy in this film to make this film. It just seemed like it was more let's cash grab off the name because the books are popular and they sell out fast. That's all this was. Could you imagine Harry Potter being this fucking bad? People would riot.
Mm-hmm. It just goes to show that I'm the same way. The way that the film, even on the directing standpoint, from the overall like product, it felt like a movie that was a product of cash grab. Like when there are young adult novels that are popular that become into films like the Hunger Games and like Harry Potter and things like that. They movies that have done based off of them, they at least put a lot of time into carrying them. This felt like if it would have maybe came out maybe around the time when Hunger Games all that was coming out, or maybe around the time when Harry Potter was popular, and we had something that was more, ongoing and actually put in the thought of this, they probably would have worked it out better. But after being in development so long, it felt like that they just came out and it felt rushed. It was like, you spent all those years trying to get this movie made, and this is what we get?
How do you fucking take a film that's been worked on since the Twin Towers were standing up and still manage to rush the motherfucker? Oh my God, Hollywood. They should have had Steven Spielberg. I know his name is being used in about every sense of form, but what he does with movies like BFG, I think he did BFG. I believe
Yeah, it was
so.
BFG.
BFG and Ready Player One. Of course, you want somebody of that magnitude. I think Steven Spielberg would have done great.
Or you could have got Christopher Columbus in the early 2000s when he was doing the Harry Potter films, the first two. He probably would have been a good fit for a director like this because he knows how to he knows how to work with child actors and stuff too. And that's another thing. That's another of my next con. The biggest problem I have with this movie alone, besides a lot of the overall story and everything, which we'll get to, the main kid that they got to play in this was very wooden. He felt like it was his first time acting, which you could tell, and he was very like he had no experience at all, and it's almost like the director, it's like they picked him off the street and picked someone random to play a character like this with no audition or something.
Well, that's the thing. A little fun fact, and this goes to a lot of movie groups you and I follow off Facebook. This, I don't know where, you get people like Judy and all them in this movie, but then your main star, you felt the need to not spend any more money. So we're going to go to the streets and let people actually audition for the main role. Literally. There was people that we follow on Facebook that's in our Facebook or in those groups were talking about the movie and said, I personally auditioned for the role. Like everybody was saying they auditioned for it. So they were really just going around just finding somebody to be Artemis instead of getting a talented actor. And yes, unfortunately, the boy comes out very bland. He is Kristen Stewart in Twilight. He is emotionless. He's doesn't even really have anything to him. He's blank. He's like staring at a fucking wall. He has nothing.
He doesn't. And while this calls from the actual script as well, from the way they played out, there's nothing really to him that comes across as he really has a personality. He really feels like a blank slate. And while there are parts in the film where he tries to come across as kind of witty, it fails in every regard because the way that he performs his lines. And it's like, no, you can't fucking do this.
I felt sorry for the kid. It's probably going to result in him having a short career. Probably the only thing he'll ever do. But he really wasn't the worst thing of this film. My personal problem with this film, acting standpoint, and this person, I'm sorry, I just don't like him. And I feel like he's generally the problem in most films, like even in Beauty and the Beast. That's Josh Gad. This dude annoyed the fucking piss out of me. He narrates the story, and the spots of how they put the narration is very sporadic and just comes out of nowhere. It almost comes off as like later in the story
like they're talking to the audience like they're some kind of dumbasses. Your film is, for one of the most stupidly written and structurally written films I've seen of the year. So we don't need your narration. And whenever they have him playing the tall dwarf, because he's like apparently a giant dwarf. I don't know if it's part of the book, but it almost sounds like forced. It's like when he's talking like he's trying to be from another world, like in a land of time. And you can see him pushing it out, but you know who he is, and it's just like.
And that's what I'm saying. Yeah, his voice, it's almost like he smoked a carton of cigarettes a day and talked like this.
It reminds me of one of those people that smoked a carton of cigarettes for 40 years, is developing it. I thought he was going to do that.
Well, I mean, not to sound like
about his lines and stuff when he was doing that forced voice thing. He was trying to be really witty and funny, and it was not funny. Like whenever like the beginning, he's kind of like, "Oh no, not that." He was really doing this, trying to make a little prodigy comedy out of it, trying to be fun.
Well, and that's a shame because I've seen the guy in other stuff that I've liked him in. Like I liked him in Murder on the Orient Express, which was also directed by Branagh. And he was actually one of the highlights that I enjoyed with Beauty and the Beast. So the guy does have his moments. He does have roles that are good, but then he's had movies like this and also Pixels. So yeah, there are movies where he gets pretty bad.
I mean, there is like probably the only thing I tolerate him in was in Social Network. He was in a little role in that.
Oh, okay, yeah. I haven't fully watched that one.
No, it wasn't that. It was 21. That's what it was. Sorry. It was 21. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I thought he wasn't too bad at 21. So other than that, yeah. Anyways, going back to it. And then you got Judy, who plays she runs like the little elf /
military type.
Well, she runs their world. She's like, it's all militarized. And she's pretty much the chain in command. And really, honestly, the lines are so written poorly for everyone that even though her lines were just poorly executed because it looked like they didn't know what to do. Like, I mean, it's almost like they didn't really have a script. So they told people like her to improvise. And they were kind of lost at the story to know what they were going to say.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot just didn't really blend very well. Like some of them was, but then some of them come off as those cheap type of fucking Spy Kids type world type shit. Mm-hmm. And it comes off something from TV. And this is a joke.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like her performance, and I love Judi Dench a lot in a lot of movies. It's how do I describe it? It's an actress that's basically of her caliber shouldn't be placed in these type of movies. This and Cats are the type of movies that you really don't want to see an actress of her caliber try to do, but unless they're really like desperate. If you get one of those type of actors that like to do something just for the money, or just to do something that maybe because the director did them did as a favor or something, just for something like that possibly.
Yeah, but it's not just her performance. Is it me, Colin Farrell, who by the way is Irish in real life? Is it me, or did it feel like he's losing his Irish accent? Because he did kind of sound American a little bit. He's like more too Americanized.
Yeah, there were parts in the film.
His accent.
There were parts in the film where like he's narrating or he's telling like a story to Artemis, and if I recall, I thought I heard like possibly his voice like speaking like an American accent at one point. I was like, oh man, because he's played American characters in movies for so long, it's like he kind of forgot to put his own voice in.
Yeah. I think really, honestly, because he plays so many American roles, I think he just sticks with the voice. And I think he's lost his natural voice, his Irish accent, because really it seemed like he was American trying to play Irish, even though he's Irish in real life. So that's itself. And then his partner called the Butler, which I hear a lot of people have a lot of problems with. The dude I really had an issue with because he was really fucking strange in an uncomfortable way. Like, I can't tell, like, is he supposed to be a robot? Because his emotions, where he's like, talking or moving and stuff, he feels very robot. And I don't think that was the intention of the character. Oh man. And
Yeah.
just, I mean, the villain this movie was almost completely villainless. It almost felt like a episode of Power Rangers in a not so good way, where you have the villain like in the dark, capturing the good guy, and you got the story is saving the day type thing, and kidnaps him, and every so often we'll see this thing talking like the fucking Madonna from Dick Tracy. They better get there with this. You remember the voice off Dick Tracy?
Yeah.
And this person stays mysterious, and you never get no details. Like, I've never seen a movie that has a villain that's in it for 2 minutes.
Well, that's my other biggest point. But this really factors in with the problem with the fucking story.
Yeah.
Now, I understand this is the safe route that we see in typical Hollywood fashion, where you set up world building and you're trying to establish your characters and, maybe make it, because they want to do this as a possible franchise. Well, there's two problems to this. One, as far as I know, the books are pretty well detailed and they have a lot of fucking world building that you can't basically take 2 books, because I heard they took 2 books and cram them into an hour-and-a-half film. I'm like, that amount of material would only work if you're doing basically like either a TV series or make it maybe 2.5 hours, maybe a little over 2 hours, possibly, maybe just for one book. But over 2 books, they're doing what Last Airbender did from 10 years ago when they tried to take a TV series, the first season, and try to cram all those into an hour and a half or almost a 2-hour movie.
There's a couple issues that you need to address on that. One is, like you were saying, they put 2 books in one movie. All right, from what I've been told, you can't even fit one book into unless it's a 2.5-hour movie. So why were they doing with 2 fucking movies or books in a movie? I mean, really, that's bullshit. And 2, yeah, the whole story, the structure and everything is fucking horrible. We get Josh Gad's fucking smoking near cancer voice narrating pretty much probably the whole fucking first book. And then by 2 to 4 minutes later, we're already in the movie. So you probably skipped a whole book and a half based off of that fucking buildup. Because apparently there's a lot of buildup for Artemis to get to where he's at, which he's this really like underground criminal. Not really, I don't know if it's criminal or what he is. Why? Yeah, from the whole spy thing and all that, there's supposed to be a buildup to where Artemis at the beginning of the film, he doesn't know what his dad is and what he did for a living. So when shit goes down and Artemis has to take over, he has to learn to become this ninja or warrior. Not ninjas, like this kind of underground spy thing. The fact that he learns this shit in 10 minutes pisses me the fuck off. Because he rushes through all of that.
And that's my problem too, is that the story is not only is it generic from a lot of shit that's empty, you hardly even get to know these fucking characters throughout the movie and everything because it's all trying to rush into this. The problem is that the movie is structured in 2 different speeds. First half of like the first 40 minutes or so is all rushed, where it's all mostly exposition, where Josh Gad is explaining stuff that it would probably help if you didn't fucking talk over shit that would probably be important. Instead, you're basically giving us cliff notes of stuff that we could probably learn about and just telling us instead of showing us, which was not needed. And then on top of that, when it gets to the middle half, the way it's structured, it basically slows down and it becomes pretty much a fucking chore to watch. And I'm like, so they just basically gave up there.
The thing also, like I said, Josh Gad's voice overs, it's literally fucking throughout the movie and explains a stupid shit. I expected him to explain, and Artemis Fowl punched the villain. I mean, it comes in that mysterious. I'm like, did we really fucking need that? Him just sporadically coming in and telling me something? What he's going to tell me when he's taking a shit? But that, yeah, there's this part where Artemis Fowl, he just sporadically came in and said, "Oh yeah, Artemis Fowl is a genius and he knows everything." And I'm like, oh my God, the lines are just fucking horrible. Like, who fucking passed this?
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like that's the reason why when it's a bad character, it's bad trying to develop characters because when you're telling us how the characters are and not actually showing us how they actually work in the way the plot is going along, that's fucking lazy. That is pure lazy of what we see in a lot of countless movies like this.
This movie was so rushed throughout its story that it was when it got to the middle film, it felt like it needed to stall to catch up. That's a bad. The structure of this movie is terrible. And here's one thing that really just like I gotta bitch about. We get to the middle of the film, kind of around the point where you see in your typical films like this, where the bad guy gets the strike or the downfall or just things didn't go as planned and all that stuff. I've never seen a film do this before. They literally get to the middle part of the movie, and that is literally where you're at the whole fucking movie. It literally stayed. This is one long, drawn out shit that goes all the way throughout the end of the movie because it's only an hour and 30 minutes for this shit. And I'm like, oh, we really in the final battle? Why do I feel like we haven't even done our other climaxes yet? We just met the little girl elf that met Artemis for the first time, and there's no time for chemistry with everybody. They're just thrown at each other and they just go with the flow, and really they don't flow together. You struggles with the chemistry. It's horrible.
That's what I also remember from Last Airbender, because Last Airbender did that to where the way that you had everything was so rushed together and stuff, and you had characters just like talking about things, what's going on, and everything just feels so like you don't have time for chemistry and stuff, and the acting so wooden. It's almost like, did you see how that film did? Because that's what Last Airbender did, and I've seen Last Airbender as far as that structure.
Yeah, and so the film goes on, and it just abruptly when you thought that all right, the Artemis and the girl elf thing, fairy, and all them took their first major strike, and now it's them to go and fight. Then I look at my time of a movie, and I had 10 minutes left. I'm like, what the fuck? And come to find out, like you would see in a series episode, cheap Disney type of movie like this, when it's on like cable, it literally tries to take a movie in like a fucking episode of a show. We don't know the villain. They just save Colin Farrell real quick, and they literally leave us off with a fucking cliffhanger. It's like they gave up.
That's right. Yeah, because they wanted to set up for a sequel. And here's the issue with that too. Basically, what you're doing is, and I'm going to have a spoiler coming up here in a minute because I have to bitch about this. For those of you who haven't seen it, there's going to have a spoiler involved. Well, the way it's structured, like the way it does it like that, it's almost like, could this have been possibly then a backdoor pilot for a fucking TV series? Because it seems like that's what they were intending to go for from the way it's all plotted out like this.
And the sad thing is, even for a pilot standard on the show, this wouldn't even probably make it past the pilot. It was done so bad that I'm already calling it now. This movie needs a reboot.
Yeah.
They need to reboot it. This needs to go to Disney Plus for the series.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. What I'm getting at was that the problem I have with the fucking plot with this is, well, first of all, we barely even know who this fucking villain is, and they go in the most generic way of telling us who it is and all that, and we're gonna review for the sequel like we always do. But here's the whole point: this whole plot is fucking pointless because all they do is they find a relic that's basically, spoiler alert, it's in the house the whole fucking time.
Oh my God, yes. Oh my God, I'm glad you brought that up. I've seen a film actually take this on a fucking turn or on a roundabout. What I mean by that is circle. We're in this fucking house 3/4 of the fucking movie anyways. And the only time we ever leave is when we're following this little elf girl and her world and stuff. And then you have this little spy thing that really doesn't go anywhere because they capture Judy and then suddenly she's free. We don't even see her escape. We don't even see the resolvement in that spy that supposedly took over went rogue. That just completely got forgotten in like fucking 10 minutes. But yeah, like you were saying, this whole thing could have been avoided Hell, Artemis didn't even need to do what he did because the whole fucking thing, the entire time, is in his house. Really? Really? I've never seen a movie that dumb. I really haven't. I've seen terrible movies, but that was just straight up fucking retarded.
It's like, well, that leads you to a big plot hole right there. It's like, okay, I understand maybe his dad kept a lot of secrets and stuff, but how the fuck are you gonna keep it in your safe the whole time and not hide it away from like some other distant location?
Why can Colin Farrell not just spoil it to her, like right off the bat, or something? When he got the chances to talk to him, hey son, it's in there. You just got to know this code, and then that would have made him have a journey to find the dwarf guy who can open it. And
well, yeah, I mean, granted, they do say
a different type of approach where they kind of look surprised. I mean, you got a boy that grew up in this house, and he was like, I didn't know it was here. Damn, boy, you need to walk around your house more often and get to know your place.
Well, granted, they do say that unfortunately it is something that that humans can't weld the actual artifact for, or sorry, the relic for. But even still, why would you leave it in your fucking house? You would leave it probably in like a distant place or something, make an actual journey out of it.
That's what I'm saying, a journey out of it. I had the problem with all this shit happen, and the entire time it was in his house, and he could have looked for the people who can obtain it and use it. Instead, he didn't even know it was in the fucking house.
Yeah.
My butler, who knew what my dad did the whole fucking time, all these years, the next one could have told me that. Oh, it's inside the wall. I'm looking for it. So, I mean, that's what I'm saying. There's this. Everything was horrible. Like, I've seen kids write better stories. I'm sorry. This was terrible. This was one of the worst Disney films, live action films I've seen ever, if not in a long, long time. And I will say that please don't. I'm sorry to you, the book fans, that you had to get something this poor.
Yeah.
And from a perspective of not judging by the books and never read the books, even as a movie, this was horrible to every standard possible. And with that being said, I gotta give this a flat line in Film Phreeks meter.
I'm the same way. This is definitely a flat line the Film Phreeks meter's way. And it's a shame because I like the directors too. And it's like, out of the films he's directed, this is definitely his worst that I've seen. So hopefully if his other one coming out, because I also heard that his next one coming out later this year will be the sequel to Murder on the Orient Express. Hopefully he can get back on track with that one. So we had a strike. But yeah, for those of you who've also seen Artemis Fowl,
smell.
Yeah. For those of you who've also seen Artemis Fowl, and also for those of you who have read the books of it, let us know in the comments below what you thought about it, and we'll see you in our next review. Stay safe, and we'll see you later.
Later.